You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Legal Connection with Tony and Cheryl. I'm Cheryl Ellsworth-Jahani and I'm here with Tony Lynn Collins, and we are two Texas licensed attorneys, and we host the Legal Connection every Tuesday from 12 to 1. We start a little bit late sometimes, but every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. You can listen to us on 104.5 FM or 106.1 if you're in Montgomery County, and you can also watch us live on Facebook, and we're on Google Play and iTunes, and you can download that tomorrow and listen if you want to. Today, we are talking about what do I do if there's a warrant, if I find out there's a warrant for my arrest.
Right.
And it happens all the time, Tony, right?
Yes, outstanding warrants. I was trying to figure out how did I phrase this that was simplistic. It's very common to learn that you have a warrant because basically somebody has made a report to the police, or the police have witnessed it, but usually if they've witnessed it, you're arrested right there if they believe there's reasonable suspicion. And somebody, it could be your ex-wife, neighbor, somebody that's traveling on the road, maybe it could be a mistake, but somebody's made a report to law enforcement, whether it be the sheriff, the constable, I guess directly to the district attorney, family, the attorney general, if it's a child support issue. Somebody's made a report that you have committed a crime, and then this report is taken by law enforcement to the district attorney for whatever county it would be. It would be Montgomery County here, of course, but we've got a lot of cases in Harris and Fort Bend and Waller and Walker and the surrounding counties that we work on. And that the district attorney, if they decide to take the case, then charges are pressed, and then there'll be a warrant. A warrant will be issued. And you may not know about it. It could be a year. There could have been a warrant outstanding for a long time, and you just simply don't know about it. And
one time I had a client, Tony, we showed up for a court date, and there was a warrant that had been issued for his arrest, and I didn't even know.
Right.
And I was the attorney.
And if it's out of county and that happens, usually the court won't know that you're going into it's out of county. But what I do when I get a new client is the first thing I do is I run like a little report on them, because I don't know them, to see if they've got any outstanding warrants, because there's a litany of reasons why somebody may have an outstanding warrant. It could be they're on a deferred and they haven't shown up. They have a failure to appear. They may have a warrant outstanding because in a lower level court they had a warrant and you didn't know about it. And we're talking maybe a JP court setting where just the peace court, where it was a Class C case, a ticket. There's Class C assaults, the lower level criminal crimes where you don't actually face jail time, or Class C cases, and they're in the Justice Peace Court. Well, if you don't show up for your hearing in the JP court, whether it be a traffic ticket or whatever it may be, they will issue a bench warrant, and you've got a warrant out. And the county is synced in to the different court levels. The prosecutors, they rotate within the JP court, the county court, the district courts, and they'll look it up. So you could very well show up, or if you haven't looked it up for your client, and there's a warrant out.
Well, so how would our listeners look it up to see if there's a warrant for their arrest?
Well, what I do just as an attorney is I just kind of poke around. I'll put their name in the three different levels: the JP court, the county court, and the district court. Typically, if there's a federal warrant outstanding, the federal court, if they really want you, they may look at the county settings. It just, the timing's not there. Usually it's jurisdictional, just like ICE isn't going to come into your county court looking for you, particularly right now with COVID. So I just look within that court level, that court system. But what we were discussing earlier this morning is I'll call a bond company. They've got statewide, the Vine system.
Right.
They're looking to make money. They'll stick that person's name in and let them know, because they're looking to help you so that you will go to them to get your bond. It's a money-making thing.
Right.
So tell us about the show today. What are our segments and why is this important?
So today we're going to talk about what a warrant is. We've sort of touched on that. We're going to talk about what your options are when you have an outstanding warrant. So you find out, say you call the bond company, and they go, "Oh yeah, you got 3 warrants." Then the third thing we're going to talk about is how to contact the court for protocol. And the last thing is we're just going to talk about cases and just discuss what we've.
And so you had a case that came up this morning, and we were just kind of talking about it, and that's why we decided to do our show on that today.
Right.
So what happened?
Well, a client of mine got a call from a bonding company and said, "Hey, there's a warrant that's been issued for your arrest." And so she called me up and told me.
Okay. And so when that happens, the very first thing that I would do immediately is I would determine if that bonding company was correct or not. They make mistakes all the time. Well, not all the time, but if the name is similar,
Right.
Or maybe, well, like my husband's got a common name. And so when
Right.
he goes to get his medical license renewed, the medical board has questions because his name is so common. It's never him. He doesn't have warrants out. But I have, as you know, as a wife and an attorney, it's pretty easy for me just to put together a little email showing that this isn't him. And then it's, when he has to get approval at the different hospitals he works at, they do it. But the same thing could apply for anybody trying to renew a license, whether it be a real estate license or probably not a legal license, but it could be. There's some attorneys that don't really know how to maneuver around the criminal side because they do, white collar work or not white collar crime, but they do say patents or intellectual property. This may not be what they do.
Transactional
So
law.
I'll have attorney friends that'll call me saying, "Hey, this is something that you do. What do I do?" And I'll look it up for them real quick. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find out if there is actually a warrant out for your arrest. And you can do this on your own if you don't want to contact an attorney by checking with the Harris County's Sheriff's Department's website. You can go to the Harris County District Clerk or the clerk's site. In Harris County, the county courts and I don't know if that's true or not. I want to say that the misdemeanor courts, the misdemeanor criminal cases, and the felony cases are all on the same website. So you just go to the Harris County District Clerk. But in Montgomery County, they're not. In Montgomery County, the JP courts, the county clerk cases, which are the misdemeanor cases, and the felony cases, which are in district court, they're all on different websites. So you've got to, and the JP courts are all on their own individual sites. So if you want to check it out, it's almost way easier just to call a bond company.
Yeah.
There's so many, and I've used a lot of them I really like. They're the ones that are kind of close to the jail.
Yeah.
But a call first to confirm that. Your name may not be on the arrest warrant list yet either. Sometimes there is a warrant, and the bond companies aren't finding it, but you don't have to rely upon a bond company because the name may not be the same or whatever. It may not have made it to because if you've got a loved one that's being arrested and you're looking to find out what the bond is, it hasn't shown up on all these lists yet. So now you're trying to get a bond to get them out, and you don't know where to turn.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of working with the court and the law enforcement and the district attorney's office to quickly get that bond, because if and we're going to talk about the 15-17 hearings here in a little bit, but you're trying to get a bond because you want them out. They've been arrested, and you don't even know if there's probable cause yet. You just think the arrest was bad. You watched someone get arrested outside, let's say their house. Let's say it was a neighbor and a boyfriend, one of your kids' boyfriends or something. And you know that they shouldn't have been arrested, but the police officer has an agenda against you or your loved one or whoever's being arrested. And they should be released. This is ridiculous. And so you can't even believe that charges are being filed.
Right.
They can be arrested for reasonable suspicion, but there may not be probable cause. And so what you're doing is you call a bond company so you can quickly get a bond set, but it's not in their computer yet. And so you're calling the court to see if the case is through the district attorney's office has made it to the court yet. So what I've done in those situations is I'm calling the district attorney's office, and they're just a couple of gals that are behind the little glass booths, COVID or not, they've got their glass booths, and you're asking them, has the case made it from law enforcement to your desk yet? I need a bond, I need a bond, I need a bond. You're bugging them because you're trying to get the computer, that bond amount set in the computer so it hits the jail so you can post a cash bond or the bonding company can get them out. And what we've talked about before is the bond amount. You really, if you get the cash for a bond, you don't want to get a bonding company involved, because why should you? The bonding company is making money by helping you, and they will help you and guide you anyway, because they're thinking you might be a repeat customer. So they'll still help you walk through the cash bond process. But your options are, do I do a cash bond on a low amount and there's a little bit of a premium so the bonding company can make some money? Or do I just want to use the bonding company because they've already done this? They'll walk it through for me. They're going to call me whenever there's a court appearance date. They're going to be my expert, so to speak, on making sure that everything is good. I typically like the cash bond route because you get the whole amount of money back. And I can't remember in Harris County if they do this or not, but it seems like you could get interest on it. I don't really remember. All right. So, but I'm kind of getting off the beaten track. You had said your friend had called and your friend or your client. Our clients turn into our friends.
They do. They
which
do.
is kind of scary. And so it is kind of
It is
scary,
scary.
because you've got friends that now have got, they're not, I guess if it's a one-time thing, that's one thing. But if they have got it's become a habit of them being arrested, they're your friends, but now you become their go-to person whenever something bad happens, and you've become a part of their life. And that's not what you want with your life. You want peace.
Right.
You don't want to be the person that's on their hotline
On call for them anytime.
because they've made a habit now of having interaction with the police. And those type of friends are the people that have some sort of of what I've determined through experience over like the last 20 years of doing this. They tend to have some sort of an abuse problem. Either their spouse is abusive, an addiction with alcohol or drugs. They may have, they're small-time thieves. They may be that they're kleptomaniacs. They've got some issue where suddenly you've been pulled into their life of small crime. They usually have good intentions, but they're making mistakes and making bad judgments because of another issue. And now, if I've got clients that have been arrested more than once, or they've got lots and lots of civil cases because they just make, they tend to make agreements and contracts that they may have good intentions initially of fulfilling, but they don't, and they're in court all the time with civil cases. People are arresting them for bad checks, which can turn into a criminal. Bad checks. It's a contract breach. But I've got a client right now who I've handled like 7 cases for him, and they're all civil and he just called me again over Christmas, and I thought, I'm hearing from him. That means he's not calling me to wish me a Merry Christmas. He's calling me because he has legal issues. And he just doesn't comply with his contracts. He'll write a $20,000 check for something, and then it's a partner. He's become friends with them. And then the police won't take it because they're partners. It's kind of a smart thing to do. But he's also got now a civil case with them. And no matter, it's just bad. I mean, it's bad dealing.
You're right, Tony. People do
and so they're your clients, but and you tend to work with them for free. But when you have that many client friends that need your help, your life has now become a charity. You're more of a charity institution because you're constantly helping, and you do want to help as many people as you can. Sure. But you can't take on all these cases for nothing or for free. I know. Because now your life is, you're sucked into the vortex of all these issues. And I've never been arrested, so I don't know. I know now in comparison that never having been arrested that these people are making bad decisions. Right. Because they're not serving God by serving others, which is what we always end our show with. Right. But anyway, all right, first you're going to see if there's a warrant. The name may not be listed. You may need to push it through. You may need to get an attorney involved if this is like the first time you've done this. If one of a loved one's been arrested or a neighbor's been arrested and it doesn't look like it's proper, right? And if they're not in the bond system yet, because the law enforcement system hasn't. The court hasn't given them a bond amount, a lot of times on a schedule, then you really need to be noisy to get that done, or they're going to be in jail for 12 to 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. And if with the right attorney involved, the right person, you can, and they usually don't talk to lay people. If maybe a police officer or something, but usually it's an attorney, then you can move it through quicker because squeaky wheels get the grease, and you're calling, you're bugging him, you're trying to get it pushed through. And then you do a cash bond through the jails, and a lot of times they'll want collateral, or you go through a bonding company, and they a lot of times want collateral too, depending on the status of their citizenship or the degree of the crime that they're accusing you of, right? And if you get a cash bond, which I like, a lot of times though, and we were talking about this earlier, they may not even be probable cause for the arrest. And so you really do want to get an attorney involved.
Right.
If there's no bond set yet, or the bond is too high, because you need to get an attorney in front of a judge to argue there was not probable cause for this particular charge, or the bond needs to be reduced to something that's fair under a 1517. And so to kind of go into that, tell us about 1517 bonds. What do you know about that?
It's a 1517 hearing, and that's where you go before the magistrate and your bond is set. Your charges against you are explained to you. They make sure you can.
It's a magistrate
English.
judge,
Yes.
right? So you're actually seeing a judge at this point. And this 1517 can occur in jail on the video.
Yeah.
So it's not, and if you have the wherewithal to say, I'd like an attorney, and you can and your family can get a hold of an attorney can go down to these video hearings before the magistrate judge, which I've done that before. I've hauled out to Harris County into the jail and asked to be admitted, because it's actually in the jail in the basement in Harris County. Not sure where it is in Montgomery County. I haven't had clients with the wherewithal to call me during these hearings, but what you're doing is you're asking them to lower the bond so that you can get a PR bond, and they'll usually have a public defender on hand to help you. But the best advice we can ever give you on this show for something like that is to remain silent. You don't admit anything. Talk with that attorney. Just don't say anything until you've spoken with the attorney. The public defender, by your constitutional right, is there for you.
Right.
So you're not talking to the government without, at any point, without legal advice. And they may very well say, you need to exercise your right to remain silent. And with the probable cause hearing, you may want to do that, because you may say something that'll inculpate you when you didn't even do anything.
I know.
And so what was the situation that you had this morning? You had a case where I thought that applied.
Yeah, well, actually, yesterday, you mean the 1517 hearing?
Well, I want you to tell us about the 1517 hearing, but what was the briefly, you don't have to use any names, the facts that you had in your case?
Well, I mean, it's goofy. There was a traffic accident in my client's area that they live in, and it was back in August. So my client goes home.
What time of day was it?
It was at night, about 11 o'clock at night. It was
Okay.
dark. So my client is waiting there. It was the car appeared to be not abandoned, but it was on a part of the street where there were no
So there's
houses.
a traffic accident, but you're telling me that there was only one person, there was nobody in the other car.
That's right.
Okay.
The car was parked.
Okay, so it was not really even a traffic accident.
No.
It was a vehicular accident.
Yes.
Okay, in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, and so they wait and wait. Nobody shows up.
Who is they?
My client. My
Okay.
client waits
By herself?
20 minutes.
Or himself? Whoever?
Not
Okay.
wait and wait.
Okay.
So then they decide to drive around. My client decides to drive around the corner and go to their house. Well, the problem was that
Go to your client's house?
Yes. My client didn't leave a piece of paper on the windshield, nothing.
Okay, so your client hit a car.
Yes.
A parked car.
Yes.
And she waited. Did she go knock on the door of the? So
No.
She didn't knock on the door where she hit the car.
There was no house by where she hit the car.
Oh, the car was in the middle of a street.
It was down at a cul-de-sac where there weren't houses
Was it
around.
construction or something? or-
I don't believe so.
Okay, so it was just a street where there was no houses.
A section of the street.
Okay,
where there
so it
were
looks
no
like
houses.
maybe a subdivision that was in the pending being developed, Why would you have a street with no houses on it? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it
to
was
me.
the area of the street. Like I remember I lived in a neighborhood one time. There was a cul-de-sac and there were no houses around it. And we used to park a big van. We had a big
Okay.
15-passenger van, and we would park it down there.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I picture in
You
my
had a
mind.
15-passenger.
Yeah, well, I have 6 kids. And so anyway.
Why don't you have a band? Why don't you like the Partridge Family or the?
We kind of did. But anyway, so they hit this truck. They didn't. The client didn't get out. Didn't leave a note. I'm sorry. Here's my
So
insurance.
the car was parked on a street that didn't have any house in front of it.
That's right.
Okay, and she hit the car,
Mm-hmm.
and then she wouldn't be waiting around and for anything. Did she even?
Didn't call the cops. They said the client said that a year ago something like that had happened, and they called the cops and they waited for an hour, 2 hours. The cops never showed up. So then the client starts driving off, and
Okay, she didn't leave a note on the car.
nothing. No, and you and I were talking about that. I mean, for our listeners, they need to know that if you do something like that, the first thing you've got to do is take responsibility for that
Well,
and
that's
how
just-
you
that's
do
just
that.
Common
Yeah,
courtesy
yeah.
in life.
It's not.
If you've damaged someone's property,
Mm-hmm.
and you would want this person to do the same thing to you,
Mm-hmm.
if you had a bike, something like the bike shop people or something, if you damage something and it's not yours, the right thing to do is to. It's an accident.
Right.
Is to
Own up to
people
it.
are going to be a lot happier with you if you apologize. Rather than do basically hit and run,
That's right,
because
exactly.
that's what it is. Even if it's not a vehicle, it's something else. So anyway, she left the scene and she didn't leave a note. Or
And-
I say she, it could be a he. I don't know.
Right, and then ran into the truck owner's daughter, who said, "You
She ran into, as in, was confronted.
was confronted by them because
When
the
did
girl
this
is
confrontation occur?
about 20 minutes after she hit the truck.
How did
or
the
the
daughter of the car that was hit?
The daughter
Find
said
out.
she heard the crash.
Oh, okay.
So sounds to me like the house was close enough. I don't know. All of this
That's
is
weird that the daughter didn't go straight
hearsay.
out there. You hear a crash and you run.
Right. So
That sounds more like your client isn't being completely forthcoming, because when someone hears a crash, they come out.
yeah. And so anyway, my client goes back to their own home, which was just right around the corner, and tells the daughter, "I live right here. Come over. I'll give you my insurance information. It's late at night, blah, blah, blah. Come in. And she didn't. So what my client tells me is that they go back home. The daughter...
But the daughter had to go to this woman's house, or she went outside where.
She supposedly the daughter saw where the client lived, and then I think the daughter went
How
home
would
and
she find that?
called
How
the
would she
cops.
see where she lived?
She showed her. That's what my client is saying.
Oh, now you've got to go back again. I'm the prosecutor here on this case. I'm confused. Your client hit a car that was parked on the street without any house in front of it, waited around for 20 minutes, and then left.
That's right.
But so how did this other person know where the daughter, where this the driver that hit the car lived?
So as my client is driving off, the daughter is walking down the sidewalk and says, "You hit my dad's car."
Okay.
And then my client says, "Yes, I know I hit your dad's car. I'll give you my insurance information. I live right there." Supposedly, you
Okay,
can
now
see
that doesn't
her
make
house.
any sense. Why didn't she stop her car right then and say, "Here's my information" to the daughter?
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense, because if it were me going out to a car driving off after an accident was hit, I would, the right thing to do would be to stop the car and have a discussion about it and take pictures, but not drive off and say, "Hey, I gotta go."
Well, that's what she did, supposedly, and pointed to her house, showed her where she lived, and said, "Follow me. Let me pull my car in the driveway." And so then I guess the daughter goes back and calls the police, and then the cops show up at her house, my client's house, because she knew where she lived, because my client says...
Was there like paint on the fender, or how bad was this bumper? Was it hit by a bumper, or how bad was the damage?
There was about $3,000 worth of damage to the truck that my client hit.
Oh.
That was parked.
$3,000. Did she even put her brakes on?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did anything happen to her car?
Yes, it was damaged.
Where was it
I
damaged?
don't know. Front right panel.
Okay,
Front
so
left
this
panel.
wasn't just a bumper.
No.
Bumper.
No.
The front right
It was a
panel means
crash.
the side of the car
Well, the police report said it's less than $200 worth of damage
to
to
her
the
car?
truck. No, to the.
Oh, to the truck.
Yeah, but
That's nothing. That's a scratch.
I know. But according to what the insurance company paid, her insurance company paid, it was $3,000 worth of damage.
I was going to say, that's not just a scratch.
Yeah.
All right. The only reason I ask is to see if there was any paint on the car that would. But apparently she admitted she did it.
She did.
Okay. All
She
right.
admitted she did it.
But it's almost like if the example would be I shot station manager Dick when I came in here because, I was in a bad mood. And then I waited around for a while and then I left. But the girl next door said she saw it, and then they came to my house and talked to me about it because his dead body's over here in the back. And, I admit it. I was in a bad mood and, I shot Dick. I'm sorry. But it wouldn't have been better if I had stuck around and tried to revive him and, and I don't know. I probably would never shoot station manager Dick.
Well, gosh, I sure hope not, Tony.
But the thing is that I left the scene.
It's right.
And I left the body, which is the car. I left the scene, and then they came and got me. It's so much worse if you've left the responsible thing to do would be to take care of it, leave the note, make sure. Of course, it's a person in a car, completely different, but to take care of that business. And I know that I've hit cars in parking lots before, and you're like, it's a little thing. But my conscience won't let me do that, especially now because there's cameras everywhere, and there might be a Ring camera. So you can't do that these days. It's going to come back to you. It's just not worth it. So the right thing to do would have been to stop and to settle it right then. Okay, but the police came around, and they talked to your client, and it wasn't resolved, I guess, or was it?
Well, it was resolved. I mean, it's interesting because in the police report it just says we knocked on her door and we're trying to. She was faking like she was asleep, and then finally,
I've done that when my clients come over before. Like they come over and it's like, I just can't deal with this. Why are they here? They're not even. So yeah, I've done that. I think.
But then she finally comes to the door, and the cops come in, and the sergeant comes in, and they talk to her, and she says that she's sorry, she didn't mean to leave. She told the girl where she lived. She pointed out her house. She said,
when did the police come by? Was it within a few days or?
No, it was that night.
The police came by that night. Oh,
it was that night.
Okay, all right.
Why is that so strange?
Because typically when somebody in the middle of the night leaves the scene of an accident, a vehicular accident, the reason they're leaving the scene is because they're intoxicated. That's the first thing that the police will think. That's just what a defense attorney would think. Why would you leave the scene of an accident? Why wouldn't you stick around? The only reason people leave is because another crime has been committed. Either their children are by themselves at the house, or they're intoxicated, or they've got contraband on the car, or they were up to no good to begin with. I mean, there was some theft that went on. There's something else going on. People just don't leave unless there's a reason. They just don't. That's why it's suspicious. That's why you stick around, because that's not only the right thing to do, but it's suspicious to anybody else hearing it. Why did you leave? And so they came to her house that night, and it seems to me that would have been when they would have determined whether there was an intoxication. And so
I think that's why they showed up.
Okay, but they didn't determine that.
No.
So
no, not according to the police report.
Okay.
So, but I don't have the whole file either.
Okay, so that's here and there. They can't prove intoxication. They don't have any evidence of that.
Right.
They would have already charged her with that if that was the case. So, so now you've got the police did an investigation right after the accident. She has now admitted, whether she admitted it before or not, she's admitted to the police, apparently, that she did this, and that she's going to pay for the damage to the car.
And has done that. That took place.
Okay, and so the charge in this case is failure to render
give information.
Failure to give information. Okay.
Which is ridiculous because she gave information. Now, she didn't give it she didn't leave it on the car. She didn't give it to the daughter as she was stopped by her on the street. But within an hour, she gave them.
Yeah, but she gave information after they showed up and demanded the information. There's no proof that she gave information at that time that the accident occurred because she didn't leave a note, and that's what someone would do to evidence if she had on her phone pictures of the car, now that might be something. I took pictures of it because my intention was but she still, that wasn't the charge. The charge is she failure to leave information.
Failure to give information.
So I would have thought that you might be able to argue before the judge, which that's part of our show today, is what you would do. Part of the reason that you want to get an attorney is you might be able to argue to the judge that it's not probable cause. Whether you're in a department store and you've walked out with clothes because I had it in my, that can happen.
Sure.
And that I can see that happening even with me. I've got a lot of stuff in my hands. I've got, this, I've got a camera. I'm looking at different things. Let's say it's Best Buy. I've got all, I don't have a basket, so I'm going to put this here. I'm not trying to steal it. It's, sticking out of my pocket or whatever it may be. And then you leave the store and the alarm goes off. Well, alarm has gone off even after you paid before, because maybe they haven't taken a little strip off or something. And then, so is there a probable cause that you tried to steal something when you paid? Or there's an accusation that you were in the dressing rooms, which they don't have cameras in there, and you were trying to steal something there. So there's some question.
Yeah, that's a good example.
And the judge, who are just people like us, but they're elected. They've made it through that whole process. Particularly in Harris County with all the Democrat judges, they're very friendly toward the defendant because they're empathetic is the term I'm looking for, not friendly. They don't know them most of the time. I want to say in the Republican counties, it's a little bit less so. But Democrats typically will go to, at least what we've seen, they're going to sort of lean toward the smaller guy, whereas the Republicans are going to lean toward more law enforcement and, I believe what they're telling me because whichever. There's just a lean, that's all. And so I've seen a number of times in the probable cause hearings in Harris County that the judge will say that I just don't see probable cause here. I'm going to, I'm not going to take this case. It gets dismissed right there. So as an attorney, you want to try to argue there was no probable cause. And that's the 15-17 hearing, or the bond hearing, is your chance if you've got an open warrant and they haven't been arrested yet. Because right when the judge gives the bond amount, he's already determined there's probable cause. So that's where your attorney comes in, and you want to kind of argue that up front. And what we were talking about earlier is citizens... it's an open forum when you go to court. You can sit in the courtroom, in any court, just for fun if you want to, not during COVID typically right now, and watch hearings progress. The problem is you can't hear what's going on because a lot of times they're talking quietly to the judge at the bench. But the beauty of COVID, what they've done for us, is they've made most of these hearings Zoom.
Right.
So the judge you can hear what they're saying to the different attorneys. And what we were talking about earlier, and that's part of our second segment, is the protocol, or third segment, is you can actually go into the Harris County clerk's Zoom. I forget what it's called. If you Google Harris County Court, Harris County District Court, but particularly the Harris County courts, they've got a list of all the courts, and you can go to a live stream and watch, and the judge doesn't even know you're there. You're just a little fly on the wall, just like you would be in court.
Right.
In fact, in real court, and this has happened to us before, the judge can see you, and the bailiff may come around and ask you, "What are you doing here? Are you a witness?" And maybe you shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't. They'll actually ask you in Montgomery County in particular, "What are you doing here?"
Well, that's interesting. So, like, if we're in a trial, can anybody just watch, even though the rule has been invoked? And
you're not supposed to.
Interesting.
But a lot of times, what the courts will do, with the rule has been invoked, is they'll take it off live stream. And if you want to go to court, the option is to actually go into court public-wise. But the Harris County courts have got this beautiful thing where you can go into a live stream and you can actually watch how everything progresses.
Yeah.
If you don't know what to do, you can look at the on docket, the off docket. You can see how the judge reasons. You can see who your prosecutor may be, or you can watch. If you do have an open case, you can watch the prosecutor that's handling your case, how they operate with other cases. It's kind of nice, and I'll have the Harris County live streams just playing in the background of my office while I'm doing other work, if I've got a case in that court, just to see how my colleagues are doing and just to watch, because I like watching court cases. I contacted Montgomery County to see if I could do the same thing, because they don't have it available so you can just tap into it on a live stream, but it's still public. And if they've got Zoom hearings and it's public, and they're only doing Zoom because of the COVID, and a lot of courts still are, whether it's civil or criminal, you can call the coordinator or email them, and they'll tell you, here, if there's a particular hearing you want to see, then give me your, I'll contact you that morning with the Zoom link. So it's wonderful that you can actually watch and you have nothing to do with the case at all.
Yeah, that's
You're
great.
just curious.
Okay, well, so if I think that we've talked about sections 1 and 2. What about contacting the court for protocol? So you've been talking about Zoom, but when we say contacting the court for protocol, we mean the procedure now that there's a warrant.
Right.
What do I do with my case?
Right. So you've got the situation we have, like you have right now, is you've got a client who's calling you, say, look, I just found out I've got a warrant, and I don't even think they have probable cause. I can't believe they did this. I've already paid for the damage. Well, my constitutional rights have been violated. I mean, there's a warrant out. Are they going to come to my door? Are they going to arrest me?
Exactly.
And there's a warrant out. Well, the warrant is exactly what it says. Whether you have a bench warrant because the judge has issued a warrant because you didn't show up for court, but it's mandated from the bench, whether the warrant is through a judge or the warrant is through law enforcement, which is going to be your typical police warrant because the district attorney has taken a charge from somebody who's made a complaint against you, you've got a warrant, so you got to take care of it. So what are my options with this warrant? Well, the first thing that I do first is verify there's a warrant. The second thing is I try to determine if there's probable cause, so I look at it. I try to see if I've determined there is a warrant. If there's not a bond set, you can't bond out. So you call the court, you contact the coordinator, usually via email. An attorney usually does this. The coordinator is going to be a lot more prone to respond immediately to an attorney than to a layperson, unless they are like street, or jailhouse lawyers, and they've already been through it before.
Right.
But you contact them and you ask if they can get a bond, if it's on a schedule. If they won't give you a bond, maybe it's just a fluke because they don't have the bond issued in there, it's not on the schedule. If they won't give you one, they'll say, well, I can't. The coordinators, whether it's county, district, JP, or whatever, will say, I have to give you, the only way I can give you a bond amount is if you appear.
That's right.
And so to appear, you can appear on a walk-in docket like in Harris County, and you won't be arrested if you go in. But you're probably doing better if you have an attorney there to argue there's no PC or probable cause on that walk-in docket. So they're Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock in the courts typically for walk-in docket. But contact the coordinator first. If you're not typically, what an attorney will do is they'll contact the coordinator, ask to get on off docket. Can I just approach the judge and talk about this? The attorney is going to argue why there's no probable cause and argue for a bond amount. If the judge thinks there is probable cause, you're going to argue for your client to get the lowest bond amount possible. A PR bond, you're given a lot of those now in Harris County. You're going to try to get that. If it's low enough, you want to do a cash bond and not go through a bonding company because you'll get all your money back. And then they're going to set a date for you to appear with your attorney. If it's a felony case, if it could be that they're going to refile it as a felony, then you want to ask that there be a grand jury hold so that you can get this before a grand jury as opposed to letting the prosecutor handle it. You may want to talk with the prosecutor because the prosecutor may think, we might want to, they have the option to dismiss it before it even goes to the grand jury. The prosecutor, they're not your enemy, they're just doing their job, but that's how you work it. Just to kind of to recap, once you get a bond, if you're guilty and you know it, you may want to just not even pay an attorney. You just may want to plead guilty or no contest, because so they'll be lenient with you. But especially if you've already told the police that you did it, you've already told law enforcement, you've admitted to it. You may just want to see what your fines are and just be done with it. Okay, but I would talk to an attorney first before I do that. You may want to appear in court and post a cash bond so you can fight it because you don't think that they've got. Probable cause is different from beyond a reasonable doubt. You may still want to fight your case, even if you do have a bond. You may want to go to a bail bondsman who's a surety to have them always reminds you of your court dates. They know the system. They know the courthouse. They know the judges. They know law enforcement. It may be easier just to go to a bail bondsman once you know the bond amount to get them to either walk through it with you, which is the other thing. You may need to do a walkthrough. They may not give you a bond until you appear, and you can't appear
with all
the
of
COVID.
this on Zoom, right?
Right.
So,
and if you have COVID, you've been exposed to it, you can't appear. But if you don't appear, and they find out that that there is probable cause, the judge may still want you to show up. They may not believe you. The judge may not believe that you were exposed to COVID. They may ask for some proof of that, and then you can do that via email. So, but you've got to. It's just a touch and go, because if you have been exposed to COVID and you show up in court and you're exposing everybody, then they're going to be really mad. And so you really just have to be. That's an excuse, but it's not a valid one if you can't prove it. What they're doing these days, though, is that they're letting your attorney Zoom in and explain that you've been exposed to COVID. That you're in the waiting room of Zoom. The judge can see you to determine your demeanor, if it's legitimate. You also have to look at your client's background, if they have a lot of prior arrest for a particular, hit and run or failure to ID or no license. Then the judge is probably going to give them a higher bond. If they've got prior arrest and failure to appear, then they're a bond risk. They don't want to give them a bond, like this Giselle gal that was over there in New York. They won't even give her a bond for $28 million or whatever. The one that was with the guy that killed himself, that did the sex trafficking.
Oh, yeah.
Jelaine.
I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, she can't even get a bond because she's a flight risk.
Yeah.
All right, so that's pretty much what our whole show is.
Right.
Call us if you have any, or email us. And
Right. And
what is our closing?
And we want to remind you to
serve God by serving others.
have a great week, guys.